Hello everyone, welcome back to another late war battle report. This is going to be the second mission from the German D-Day book. It's going to be Germans versus British. Based on the results from last game, the Germans won, so I will be attacking in the Outflanked mission. So it's 109 points, so let's have a little look what I'm bringing for the Germans. I'm bringing a Fallschchrimjager company, consisting of the HQ of two MP40 teams, and they've got Panzerfaust as well. And then I have two full teams of paratroopers equipped with Panzerfausts and one Panzerschreck team each. In that formation as well is going to be three 8cm mortars and three 12cm mortars. So a bit of artillery to pin some British down on the objectives while the infantry move in for the kill. To utilise the flank on the outflanked mission, I am going to be using two teams of scouts to get some spearheads so I can deploy on that far side of the board. And the hammer in my force are going to be the 4 Tiger 1s. That brings me to 107 points, so with my 2 remaining points I've decided to take own goal, so just to delay the British reinforcements coming in. Should be a good game. The British do have 17 pounders though, so these Tiger 1s are not as invulnerable as they normally are. So let's have a look at what the defending British are using. Here is the defending British force. 2 formations again. Again, problem with the British is we're still waiting for the British D-Day book to come out before we can get any more equipment. So we have a Churchill Armoured Squadron consisting of the HQ of 2 Churchills. There's then 2 troops of 3 Churchills. In this formation as well is 2 troops of 3 Shermans, and each Sherman troop has a Firefly. Second formation is a motor company consisting of the HQ and 2 platoons. Each platoon has 4 rifle round gun teams, a 2-inch mortar and a Piat anti-tank gun, and in that formation as well is 3 universal carriers. Unfortunately in this mission there is no spearhead for the defending team. In support we have 4 M10 17 pounders and 4 25 pounders. So that's 108 points, so for 1 point we're going to throw in the lucky command card as well. So some slow tanks, some tanks with very dangerous guns on them, and hopefully enough infantry for my opponent to hold down the objectives. So let's have a little look at deployment. Right, here we have deployment. The British have all the Churchills and a unit of Shermans in reserve, and the M10 17 pounders are in ambush. So this is how the British have deployed. They have 1 unit of Shermans guarding this right objective, with a platoon of infantry on hand. The 25 pounders are back in the woods by here. The universal carriers are on the far left objective, and we have another platoon and the HQ in the building. For the Germans, I've put the Tiger 1s on the left flank to push for the right-hand objective for the British and to deal with any reserves coming in from this corner. I have my 12cm mortars looking down the road at the objective, and I have a ranged in marker there already. On the right flank I use my 2 scout units to push up as far as I can. One went here, one went over the ford. There is a ford under this infantry. One failed to cross, but the others have managed to get a platoon over and another platoon here with the 8cm looking down in the town. And I do have my HQ here as well. And this is as far as they can push, because that is 16 inches from the Allied deployment. So British are defending, so the Germans will have first turn. Objectives don't activate until turn 6, and the British have ambush and immediate reserves. So German turn 1. End of my movement, I've brought the Tiger ones around like this, so I can get some shots on the Shermans. Most of them can see the end Sherman, and only one can see the middle guy, but more importantly, the Firefly will have to move in order to shoot at the Tigers. So that would reduce the rate of fire unless they fancy doing a blitz move next turn. Over on my right hand side, everything has moved as quickly as possible. This unit here has just tactical moved, since the dash was the same. I will get some cover, but there are infantry in the top floors of this building, so that will cancel the short terrain. The further platoon has cross-country dashed as far as they could go over the river, blocking the scouts behind them, and my other scout cars have moved in cover of the hill, and this guy is still stuck behind the river. So let's have a look at what I can do in my shooting phase. In my shooting phase, the Tigers failed to hit any of the Shermans because it was long range and concealment from the wall. This front Tiger could not see because the forest is in the way. The 8cm mortars did lay down some cover and smoke across the building where the infantry are to protect my infantry as much as possible. The 12cm mortars ranged in by here and have pinned the HQ and the platoon in the building, but no casualties. And that is my turn, so let's go into the British turn 1. British startup phase, both units here failed to unpin, even with a reroll on both rolls. So both these units are pinned, and I think that's quite good for me. The ambush has been revealed. The 4 M10s are in the forest here covering this objective, so these 4 Tiger 1s don't look as fearsome as they were. So let's see what the British are going to do for their movement, if there's any. British movement, the infantry platoon here has moved into the building. The Shermans here have moved behind to get some concealment and hopefully some blocking cover from these buildings. The Universal Carriers have tried to move into the forest. One of them has failed, and the M10s are going to stay where they are. British shooting, they tried to range in the middle of this field using their motor company HQ. So that made it to a 5, 4 because he was trained, and 5 because of the terrain. And unfortunately the British didn't range in with their 3 attempts. And that was it for British shooting, so now we're going into German turn 2. In my movement, I had nothing to do in my startup step, so I just went straight into movement. I have moved one Tiger round to here, because Sherry has managed to leave some of her Shermans out in the open. So these 2 can still see the Shermans, so they didn't bother moving. This guy was right at the back, so I just put him by here, just to get him into the game a little bit more next turn. With the British pinned, I decided to move this platoon and move more towards the house to get some cover, and then launch an assault on it next turn. Didn't dash because that would leave me too close. This team over here did dash. I did move one further forward to try and do a follow me, but they failed. I tried to do a blitz move with the scouts to get them onto the hill so I can shoot down on the rest of the British Army. They failed their blitz, so they just tactical moved. Their comrade is still not got over the ford, and this lot here are just dashed, so they're not doing anything else. So let's see what I can do with my shooting. In my shooting, I had to rearrange in both my mortars because they're a bit too close to my infantry teams. I ranged in first attempt both times with them, and I hit quite a few. I couldn't hit anything in this building because it was too close. I did kill one of the motor platoon's rifle teams, so that was good. The scouts on top of the hill did hit a Universal Carrier, but the Universal Carrier bounced the shot. Yeah, you heard it here. Universal Carriers bounced an anti-tank round. The Tigers, unfortunately, needing 6s to hit the Shermans because of range and concealment. I didn't get anything. So this is British turn 2. So let's see what they can do. British startup step, the 2 units are unpinned. For reserves, Sherry did roll 1-5, so she gets reserves, but then I used my own goal, and then she re-rolled it and got a 4, so no reserves for the British this turn, so gives me some more time, I guess. So let's see what the British are going to do for movement. British movement, Sherry has moved her Shermans to cover the left flank objective, based on the Tigers can't really move very far with these M10s covering here and the rest of the reserves moving on here anyway. This universal carrier did manage to get into the forest with the help of Cross here. So British shooting turn now. British shooting, the 25 pounders have ranged in on the hill. They did hit a scout, but it bounced a shot. Over in the field, the Shermans and the motor platoon in this building here have managed to kill about 3 teams from this platoon. So they are pinned based on the number of hits they've had. Actually, I have to double check that because the size of the platoon. And now we'll go into German turn 3. In my movement, I've moved the Tigers into more concealment. Only targets available to me are the 25 pounders, but the most important thing is the M10s can't see me. So it's a bit of cat and mouse, but there's a reason I've placed them here, just to cover anything moving onto this side of the board. My infantry platoon successfully rallied, and they've occupied this building, the adjoining crater, and behind, so I'm protected. And this platoon here has tactical moved to cover here. The scout cars have moved with them. Their comrade is still on the other side of the river, and the other platoon is on the crest of the hill. Unfortunately, all my ranged in markers are now too close to both platoons, so the 8cm mortars, I tried looking for another target for them, but their range is too short. Basically it's about here their range is, so nothing for them. And 12cm mortars can't see anything, so there's nothing they can do. So I do some shots, so it's going to be a bit sporadic at best, but it's worth a go. German shooting, didn't achieve anything. I failed to hit the 25 pounders. My scout cars and one of the platoons of Fallschchrimjager pumped in some rounds into the building. I did hit some stuff, not enough to pin it, and not enough to kill anything. So I have quite a bit to do next turn, since the British will be getting reserves on. So we're into British turn 3. Summarising the startup step, the British had no morale or rally tests. They did get a unit on from reserve, so Sherry's going to be bringing in a troop of Churchills. So let's go to British movement. Right, here the British Churchills moving on. They've picked this corner by here. It's just a tactical move so far. Over here, the British platoon has moved into this terraced house over here, and these Shermans over here have just shunted over left ever so slightly. So let's see what the British have got up their sleeves for shooting. British shooting was quite successful. The Shermans here managed to get rid of 3 of their Fallschchrimjager. Luckily my Panzerschreck survived. And over here, the British got a few hits on the guys in the building. I failed 2 saves, and then Sherry rolled 2 6s, killing 2 more. So my infantry are dropping a bit. The 25 pounders did get some hits. Oh no, they didn't actually hit anything. So German turn 4. My turn, I successfully rallied the pinned down platoon over by the hill. These Tigers just tried to do a blitz move and failed, so that's a bit unfortunate. The rest of the stuff, I moved some more infantry into the building to occupy the 2 spots that were there. The rest of this platoon is tactical move, behind this hedge. And also this half track over here is still stuck on the other side of the river. I think he's going to stay here for the rest of the game, to be honest. So let's see what I can achieve with my shooting. German shooting, my Tigers didn't manage to hit anything. I did have a few shots with Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks at this Sherman platoon. I missed. This team here is pinned thanks to the half tracks and the platoon here. So I am going to shape up for an assault since this platoon isn't here yet, and the Shermans might not quite be able to get so much cover fire since I'm just going for the HQ in this building. So wish me luck. The assault was successful for me. Luckily these were just out for Overwatch, or covering fire, mixing up with 40k I think. I managed to get 3 hits on, so the British formation commander is gone, and I also managed to take out another of the motor platoon's rifle teams. They failed the counterattack, so that's why they're outside of the building now. I've occupied the building with my remaining paratroopers. I did lose one through cover fire. My formation commander is in that building because he did double up for the assault, so he got a bit of a consolidation as well. So it's starting to look a little bit better for me now. So what can the British do in turn 3 for them? British startup step for turn 4. This British team has successfully rallied, and there's another unit of reserves coming in, which is going to be the other Sherman platoon. So let's have a look at British movement. British movement, we have a conga line moving up by here, so this is where the Shermans have come on. Luckily, Sherry hasn't realised that my Tiger 1s are right over here. Side shots, and then she moves her turrets and fires at them, but it's worth it. 2 of the universal carriers have moved out of the woods and have popped up by here. They can't go too close because my guy's in the building. The platoon that rallied are in the top floor, so basically we've got 2 platoons of the motor company by here. So British shooting, let's see what they're going to do. British shooting, I'm still losing lots of my paratroopers from the Shermans and the universal carriers. There's a bit of a turf war going on with the 2 platoons here and my platoon in here. No kills, but I am pinned. So let's go into German turn 5. I've tried moving 2 of my Tigers. This guy has got stuck trying to get into the forest. This one has moved in, so he will still be hidden from the M10s because it's over 6 inches away through tall terrain, and he's 4 inches back, so it will be concealment for him to shoot out, but it's safer than being exposed to them. My Fallschchrimjager here have all moved up behind the hedge and on the objective. My scouts have moved around tactically. This one moved to here, successfully doing a cross. This one I left by there, so he's not exposed. And their comrade is still over here, and my platoon in the building has failed to unpin, so not good. But my formation commander may be able to direct some artillery down on the 25 pounders if I'm close, if there's danger close. So German shooting. My shooting with the Tigers, I got 3 hits. 1 was equalled, so I already got a bailed. The other 2 I penetrated, but rolled 2 2s, so we've just got 3 bailed out Churchills. I'm not happy about that. I've used my formation commander to range in by here, so he can draw a line of that to his little house. So the 12 centimetres were ranged in. First time, but I have failed to hit anything. I used Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks in here and here, and I have successfully killed 1 Sherman and bailed out another. So that looks quite good for me. And that's it. So British turn 5. British startup step, no pin down units. 2 Churchills have got back in. one has not, even with protected ammo, and this is what I wanted to happen. Just one Sherman is operational, and Sherry rolled for reserves, and she's got one more unit reserves coming in, which is the Churchill HQ unit. So let's have a look at British movement. British movement, the Universal Carriers have moved to take some flanking shots on the infantry here. This one was in the woods, so that he's been left behind. The Churchills have moved over here, leaving behind their bailed out comrade, and the Shermans have crossed into the woods, and the other two Churchills are moving on where? The two Churchills are from reserve.
Oh, right, okay.
So 8 inches, they get the move on,
Yep.
so
So
they're just going to go and conga behind the rest of them. So they'll end up coming on by here. So there's the HQ unit, so if he doesn't get in, yeah, at least he has a reroll for next turn. So British shooting, let's see what they're going to do. British shooting, the 25 pounders have got rid of the MG half track, and the Universal Carriers have got rid of another platoon, a team, and they're pinned, and these guys remain pinned and did take a lot of fire from here, but no firepower checks passed, so that's that. So now we're going into German turn 6 with this objective now active. Both platoons have unpinned, and after checking, I am on the objective. The only problem is I have Universal Carriers and Shermans contesting it, so I'm going to try and wrap it up this turn. I need to get rid of these two Shermans and these Universal Carriers. So I move my platoon into assault range. This guy's moved over so I can get a side shot on this Firefly here. This guy tried to cross, so he's just going to have to... Well, I don't think he can do anything, actually. These two are going to try and deal with the Universal Carriers, and this guy here is still there. These 8cm mortars I don't think will be able to do anything, because there's units here, and there's units here, and there's units there, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get anything. The 12cm mortars, however, will still range in over by here. So, well, actually, I might move my formation commander over here, so the 12cm mortars are going to have a bit of a harder time ranging in by here. And over by the Tigers, one has successfully gone to the woods, so I can shoot at more of the Churchills, trying to support the objective. So, German shooting. Tiger tanks with their shooting have killed one 25 pounder and have missed everything on the Churchills. Over here, with the help of Panzerfausts, Panzerschrecks, and the 5cm guns from the scout cars, I've managed to bail the Sherman and all 3 Universal Carriers, and as you can see, the formation commanders come out. So I think these assaults are a foregone conclusion, really, although these Churchills might have something to say about it. So let's wish me some luck, or maybe some of you are wishing Sherry some luck for the assault. The assaults are over. Phase 1 assault, I put my formation commander against the 2 Universal Carriers. They killed one, and because it was bailed out, he died, and this guy was within 6 inches of him, so he died as well, because he couldn't get away. Second phase of my assaults, I moved these guys onto the Shermans. There was some cover fire from this Churchill, which was in range, and from the 25 pounder that was in range. They did get one hit, but I successfully passed. I didn't kill anything in assault, although I double bailed and Sherry passed all her armour checks. But unfortunately, there was nothing within 4 inches to help out the 2 bailed out Shermans, so they couldn't withdraw, so they died. And that leaves me on top of the objective with no contesting, so that leaves me victor for this game, outflanked. Although I've lost a lot of units from both platoons are still intact, so that is a stunning victory for the Germans. Unfortunately, the British couldn't quite get enough of their reserves on in time to cover this objective, and although my Tigers didn't do much, my intention was to just to cover this avenue by here, to stop the reserves coming over. I didn't do that much, but I did slow down the Churchills, and there was a lot of lucky attempts to, first of all, to take this house from the British. Maybe the British should have assaulted into this house just to push me away, but once you're in the building, it is quite tricky to take it. So Sherry did enjoy the game, so hopefully now we'll move on to game 3 of the D-Day missions in the German book, and hopefully the British will be able to get one over on me.